Hello everyone, Justin Crumley here with another edition of Cujo Productions Sports Talk. This is a very special installment of Sports Talk. Today we're going to look at not a current event or breaking news coming from the world of any kind of sport. And by any kind of sport I mean NFL, NHL, MLB, maybe even the NBA. Stuff I'm interested in and I can tell you about, or whatever, UFC, I might do, WWE maybe even. It's sports entertainment, so it counts. But speaking of WWE, we're going to look at something that Vincent Kennedy McMahon created back in 2001 called the XFL. Now, if you don't know what the XFL is, it was a football league back in 2001. As I said, created by Vincent Kennedy McMahon to compete with the NFL, because back then football was immensely popular. It still is, but, you know, different timing. So Vince decided to cash in on this by creating the XFL. And, wow, it failed. After one season, spoiler alert, it was canceled. No more. Now, I'm not gonna bullshit you on this. I was a fan of the XFL. I was. However, I was 9 years old when it came out. I even have an XFL football. And you know what? To its credit, it's pretty cool looking. I like the design. Black with the red X. So, the design itself is pretty cool. Too bad I can't say the rest about the league. So why did it fail? Well, we're going to look at the big reasons why. This is why the XFL failed. Number one, the lack of teams. This is a picture of all the teams in the XFL. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That's the whole league right there. All 8 teams and their glory. Yeah. Now, I don't mean to say that more teams the merrier, but it helps. I mean, 8 teams, that's 8 cities that give a shit. And last time I checked, there are more than 8 cities in the United States. Hell, only 7 states could have a team to identify with. I say 7 because 2 of the teams were from California. Hold that thought, we'll get to that later. As I said, the more the merrier, and maybe the money just wasn't there, but only 8 teams? Really? That's only a fourth of the NFL. How do you expect to compete with them when you only have 1/4 of the amount of teams? Seriously. Wow. And remember the divisions, East and the West. We'll get to that shortly. Number 2, the extreme rules. Football can be a very dangerous sport. It really can. A lot of people today would say that the NFL is soft. Well, really all they did was they started cracking down on headshots. And given the situation over the last few years with Junior Seau committing suicide, Jim McMahon apparently not being able to find his way home unless his wife programs her address into a GPS, I can unpopularly say that I do approve of these headshot rules. You shouldn't be aiming at the head. You should be tackling with your shoulder. That being said, there are some dumb rules in the NFL, but that's not what we're going to talk about. Now, the XFL was supposed to be the Extreme Football League. And, so what kind of extreme rules did they have? Well, instead of flipping a coin to determine who got the ball first, they had 2 members from each team run after the ball. Okay. Now, this isn't a horrible idea. It's actually quite creative. However, This is my problem. And it's a very minor problem. It's actually putting people at risk. What happens if one of these guys tears their ACL or MCL, or they fall down and get a concussion, or they bump into each other and something happens? Then each team is down a guy before the game even starts. Now, like I said, it's a creative concept, but does it really make it extreme? I think it'd be more extreme if the two guys had like spiked armor and shot at each other like something out of a Mad Max movie or something. But obviously that couldn't happen. Now for the third reason it failed, the marketing. There were tons and tons of commercials and a lot of adverts. This was a pretty hyped thing. I remember seeing all kinds of adverts on different TV channels saying the XFL to premiere on UPN. So many matchups, like the Chicago Enforcers, the Orlando Rage, and all that kind of stuff. You can find a lot of these adverts on YouTube, and to their credit, some of them are pretty entertaining. There was a lot of hype behind this. Now, as I said, the games were televised on UPN, and little tidbit, CW50 today used to be UPN, just in case you're too young to remember. Now, at the time, UPN ran Red Wings games as well, and it was also running SmackDown. So it only made sense that this would be where the XFL was televised. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get into why the marketing was actually part of the problem with the XFL. To begin, you remember that image of the blimp that I showed you? Yeah, that was supposed to be the promotional blimp to kick off the season, and it crashed. I'm not making this up. It actually crashed. One could say that that's not so subtle foreshadowing. But another big problem with this is, now, this is something I don't really remember. So if I'm wrong, just kind of bear with me here. I don't remember the XFL ever showing up on ESPN. I really don't. ESPN would not talk about the XFL. I don't remember one time it getting a mention, not even its championship game. So while the marketing was there and while it was being promoted, it wasn't being promoted in the right place. As I said, the games were only televised on UPN, not even Fox, NBC Sports, or CBS, or ESPN. I mean, those are the major sports networks today. I'm not sure if they were back then. In fact, I think they were. I don't know. It's been a long time, but that's where I remember seeing NFL games. So why wasn't it marketed over there? Was Vince McMahon really afraid that it wouldn't stack up? The marketing was there. It just wasn't in the right spot. A very minor reason that this league collapsed, but a reason nonetheless. Now we move on to the final reason, the championship game. Yes, the $1 million game. I'm not actually making that up. That's what it was called, the $1 million game. Yeah, $1 million game. Okay. Now, you remember when I showed you all 8 of the teams, and I said only 7 of the states in the United States, 7 out of the 50 states probably gave a shit, and a very little one at that? Well, the championship game was between the San Francisco Demons and the Los Angeles Extreme. 2 major problems I have with this. 1, they're both from the same division or conference. What's the point in splitting up the teams in 2 different conferences if 2 teams from the same conference can play in the championship game? That makes no sense. And this wasn't for a conference title. No, this was for everything. This was to be the champion. It'd be like if the NFL decided, hey, instead of AFC versus NFC, let's just merge the playoffs. And then we get a Super Bowl featuring Carolina and Seattle, or Atlanta and Washington, or maybe even New England and Oakland. Yeah. Would that make any sense at all? No. And the second problem I have with this, only one state gave a shit, and probably not much of one. The state of California. Both teams are from California. It's not good for business because, as I said, one state and probably barely enough people gave a shit. And they probably stopped watching after halftime because the Los Angeles Extreme completely annihilated them. It's all on YouTube. You can go watch it if you really want. Thus ended the first and only season of the XFL. Wow. Even Vince McMahon himself called it a colossal failure. And it's actually one of those things that WWE doesn't want you to remember. So you should favorite this video if you want to hold on to that. You want to know how bad this league was? Apparently, the WWE lost between $30 and $60 million. Rich or not, that's not chump change. That is a lot of money. Well, that's it. That's basically why the XFL failed. There's probably a ton of other reasons, but that's all I really had time to cover. It was quite a work putting this video together, let me tell you. But I do what I must. Thank you for watching, everybody. I really hope you found this informative. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. That's all I got for you today. I will be back on whenever some sports news hits, or if nothing, next week sometime, look for another creepypasta video narration. It's another original story of mine, so really excited to do that. Guys, have a wonderful day, and if you're not, I hope it gets better. I'm Justin Crumley, and this is Cujo Productions, signing out.